magic in the air. בכל הגוף בוער. Feel the magic in the air.
Alrighty, welcome everyone to another World Cup preview episode from the folks here at Planet Soccer. I am your co-host today, Dylan. I'm here with my buddy Reed down in the great state of Texas, having a mimosa before 9 o'clock his time. Gotta respect it.
Yep.
Gotta respect it.
First of many days, it seems.
Yeah, we got a big match coming up later between my Newcastle and his Tottenham. So might be a little tension on today's group preview episode, but maybe we'll save some of that tension for later for our live stream of the game. But today we're going to be previewing Group C, consisting of Argentina, Poland, Mexico, and I swear this wasn't initially intentional, Saudi Arabia. For those of you not watching on YouTube, check us out on YouTube. I got a new web camera. Might be a little too good. You can see a little bit more of me now. But I got my Newcastle shirt on for the game later today. Unironically threw it on and then realized we were doing the group preview of Saudi Arabia. So pretty fitting that I left it on. But Reed, kind of talk me through Group C. Where do you stand with it? What are you looking at? What are kind of the big things we're looking for?
I like Group C. I like it because I like Argentina. Maybe not like them as a fan, but I like them as a squad, obviously. The big question in this one is kind of the question of maybe the biggest question of the World Cup is, can Messi finally get that World Cup trophy? And it will start in his path through Group C. So, it's not all Argentina. Mexico is a side that I think, do we want to just go ahead and say it now? They haven't missed out on a knockout stage since, what was it, 78 in tournaments that they've made at least. So, Mexico's always a consistent player in the group stage. You've got Poland, who, Robert Lewandowski of Barcelona can obviously go in. He could be the leading scorer through the group stages if he's at his best and if Poland is able to get him the ball up top. Past, him and some other guys, they're not the strongest side, but they're definitely formidable. And then you've got Saudi Arabia, who, they're probably could be considered on the up and up kind of in the soccer world. Obviously, there's lots of money being poured into that squad and just Saudi Arabian money being poured into soccer in general. So it's definitely a country that cares about the sport. I think talent-wise, they're definitely not on par with the other three teams, but this group is absolutely Argentina's to lose. Kind of similar to Group A was for the Netherlands.
Yeah, I think this is a group. I think Argentina's like minus 250 or something to win. So it is a pretty foregone conclusion that Argentina will win this group. I think anything other than that would be shocking. So let's kind of just dive in to Argentina a little bit, what we're looking at with them, what excites us, what question marks we have around them. For me, the first thing of note, obviously, when you look at an Argentina side, is Lionel Messi. In my opinion, the best player of his generation, probably a top 5 player of all time, to be honest.
He's the best player of all time. How is he not?
I mean, yeah, I'm not going to sit here and argue it. I know there are plenty of people that will. I don't think you can even argue he is a top 5, certainly. And I think when you really sit there and look at it, he's better than Ronaldo in this generation without a ton of question. But right now, he leads Argentina as their captain. They're currently the 3rd-ranked team in the world, according to the FIFA rankings. They have the second-best odds to win the World Cup at 6-1, according to DraftKings Sportsbook. And we talked about this a little bit previously, transfer market value. Right now, they're sitting in 8th compared to all teams globally, which is a little bit possibly of a talent discrepancy when you look at their world ranking and when you look at their odds to win. So that is kind of like, as a bettor, that's kind of a question mark to me. Is I think people are really excited, but are these lines and stuff a little bit inflated because it is Messi's last ride?
I think that also shows that just their top end talent is so
with
good.
very little depth.
Yeah,
Which
and they
we'll
don't
kinda
have
go
that
into.
depth
Exactly.
like you see on in England. Yeah,
The other thing that really sticks out with them is their unbeaten streak right now. They're sitting at 35 games. If they go unbeaten, don't have to win them all, but if they go unbeaten in group stage, they'll set the all-time record at 38 straight unbeaten matches. It's kind of just a general overview of where they currently sit. But Reed, why don't you dive in a little bit for us on their kind of strengths and weaknesses, and you're more of the tactician of the two of us, so kind of give me what you're looking for from them.
So with Argentina, you've obviously got a pretty menacing front line, and a front line with depth. You have Lautaro Martinez, Inter Milan, up top. He's on his way, if he isn't already, to becoming one of the top 5 strikers in the world. He's on form. He's lethal. His mentality is there. He's probably the best number 9 on form that Messi's ever had in his time with Barcelona. Why do I keep saying Barcelona?
Beats me.
Messi and Barcelona, I just associate them together, I guess. He's probably the best number 9 that Messi's ever had with Argentina, excuse me. Obviously, he still has Di Maria with him on the wing. He'll probably be back by the World Cup. I think I've heard at this point he's suffering a little bit of an injury hiccup, but we do expect him to be back. And then the youngster Julian Alvarez of Man City, who kind of plays a backseat role for club, but I expect him to get integrated into this squad a little bit in the World Cup, and he's a lethal finisher as well. I think the front line, they're going to score goals. They have good link up play. It's weird their midfield. Say take Giovanni Lo Celso for instance. He's not a world beater with club. I could speak to that with Spurs. He's been better when he's gotten his loan move over to Spain and with Villarreal, I want to say it was. But they've got those midfielders that just work really well in the national team to link up with that front line. And then their 2 center backs are 2 very, very good Premier League center backs in Christian Romero and Lisandro Martinez, and then Emi Martinez at the back and goal. So there's really no true holes. I don't know who their fullbacks are. Dylan, do you know who their fullbacks are off the top of your head?
I did have it pulled up. They have Acuna from Sevilla, I think is their left back, who Sevilla has not looked good, but he's still a quality enough fullback. And I can't tell you offhand who their right back is for whatever reason.
So that just tells you if they have any weaknesses, or not even weaknesses, just deficiencies compared to the rest of their talent. It's on the on both fullbacks. So this team's going to score goals. You're going to see a lot of 2-footed tackles from their center backs. Both play really aggressive. So I don't know. I think I expect them to dominate this group, quite frankly. And if they come in to this World Cup with the mentality that they're just going to steamroll everybody, then I think that works to their advantage. I wouldn't consider it overlooking teams. I just think that they know they're better than everybody in this group, and kind of opposite of an England who's better than everybody in their group, but they don't have the confidence right now. Argentina's unbeaten in 35 straight matches, so there's not going to be a lacking of confidence, not a lacking of talent. I think they're going to steamroll this group.
Yeah, I fully expect them to steamroll this group, and I don't really see. I see maybe we'll kind of dive. I think we're might be diving into Mexico next, but I have a couple reasons that while I am not high on Mexico, I think this Mexico side could at least steal a point from Argentina, but I don't see Poland or certainly Saudi Arabia being able to keep up with the offense we're going to see from Argentina. I think it's unlikely Mexico does, but I think there are a couple reasons that Mexico might be able to hang tough with them. But the thing for me about this Argentinian side is in the past it has been Messi. Messi's phenomenal, but it's had to have been Messi. He has not had a supporting cast of goal scorers like he does now. So you you kind of have seen how he's taken on that role at PSG, and he's done it quite nicely. He can still score worldies from outside the box, but he's able to facilitate really nicely at PSG, and that's something he hasn't been able to necessarily do for Argentina in the past. But with all that talent around him, it'll kind of open up the game a little bit for him where he doesn't necessarily feel that pressure. So I think we could see the best World Cup out of a Messi, and with it being likely his final. I think he said likely his final, but Ronaldo's the one that said it's for sure his, or is it vice versa?
No, Messi said it was his last.
It was Messi for
I
sure.
just have a feeling about Messi. I have a feeling that he's going to play in that U.S. World Cup. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I hope he does. I hope you're right. I'm not holding my breath if he's coming out and said it, but
Messi is the one that came out and said it. So
even more to it, like I think it's kind of crazy. We're going to see his best World Cup, in my opinion, in his last World Cup, and I think that purely has to do with what's going to be at his disposal around him, and allow him to do what he does best and play in that little bit more open game, because you're not going to be able to completely center in on him defensively because there is so much goal scoring talent around him.
Yeah, I'm not comparing Lautaro Martinez to prime Luis Suarez, but it's similar. Whoops, sorry, I'm playing something in the background. There we go. It's that type of Barcelona link-up play that he had in that prolific group with Suarez, Neymar, and himself. So I think Messi's due for a big tournament, both on the goal side and the assist side, the facilitation side, playmaking side.
Yeah, if I'm doing, like, I don't even know if this is out there, like a fantasy World Cup draft, like there's a really good chance I take Messi 1-1.
Yeah.
Because of A, the group he's in. I anticipate them to score plenty in this group, and B, because we're going to see like peak prime Messi, just because of what he has around him at his disposal. And the team, with it being his last, not that you question teams' motivation necessarily in a World Cup, but like you're the biggest legend in the history of your country comes out and says, this is my last, like there's no shot you're leaving anything on the field. So I think it'll be a highly motivated, highly confident Argentina side for sure.
Yep, agreed. We could go on and on and on about Argentina because they're
exciting.
Argentina is that guy. Let's move on to Poland though. Get into Poland a little bit. I think they're the second team we have on here. I'm not even going to try to pronounce their head coach's name. They're captained though by Robert Lewandowski, who actually started as a defender in his professional soccer career. I did not know that, but I saw a clip of him. His first ever sub on in his professional career was at center back. So that was interesting. This will be Poland's 8th World Cup appearance. They haven't passed the group stage, I believe, since 1982, I believe is what this says. They're kind of in that third tier of European soccer. It's, obviously the top of the top, the ones that have won a World Cup, and then there's kind of the Netherlands and all them in the second tier. And then there's that revolving door. Yeah, there's that revolving door of teams that go in and out of the World Cup and in that third tier. And Poland's in that tier, I would say, despite Lewandowski, they don't have a whole lot of, things that threaten anybody, I would say. They've got some strengths. Their weaknesses is definitely the lack of top-end talent compared to other European teams. Szczesny's had his big moments.
He's also
a lot of them haven't been positive.
I was going to say,
so
he's had some big moments, but not in big moments.
I think he had an own goal in the Euros, and then he just been abysmal in the Champions League. So, I don't know. This Poland team, it's one of those things where like Lewandowski could go for a brace against Mexico, and they end up winning that game, and then they beat Saudi Arabia and lose to Argentina and go forward. It all lies on the shoulders of Robert Lewandowski to me.
Yeah, 100%. And it's something that I don't know. Don't get me wrong. He is a prolific goal scorer, but I don't know his ability to 100% put this team on his back against Mexico and against Argentina. Like I said it in Argentina. I flat out don't think it's possible. for him to put the team on his back for that match. Mexico,
Yeah.
I'm not a believer in Mexico, so maybe he can, but I would still question his ability to do that much. On his own isn't quite fair. He does still have some talent around him, but like going back to our transfer market stats, I think they're like 17th or 18th. FIFA ranking is 26. So like clearly that it's not an overly talented side. Lewandowski's by far their best player, and I think he is going to be asked to do a lot, and I don't think he has the ability to certainly do that against Argentina, and in my opinion, likely not against Mexico either.
Yeah, I do think really both Poland and Mexico, we talked about Napoli in our previous Champions League recap, I believe we did. Both of them have players on Napoli that are red hot this season. You've got Peter Zielinski, who's got, I think, 10 goal contributions in 14 games for Napoli. But at what point do I wonder, like, okay, Napoli is just so prolific all over the field. Like,
you can
are
throw
those
a lot
stats
of people in there? Right?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are red hot on Napoli right now. But, he had a big performance in the Champions League against Liverpool. He had a brace, and I think he maybe even had an assist in a 4-1 win versus Liverpool for Napoli. So I don't think he has the best track record on the national team. I want to say it's like, well, I have it right here, so I'm not going to guess. 9 goals and 74 caps for the national team. But he is playing well for club right now, so he's on form. Perhaps maybe that's some help that Lewandowski will get. But at best, second in this group. It's going to come down to that game against Mexico for them.
Yeah. I think one of the things about this Poland team that's so funny to me is, like, on my personal, like, notes for this group, I have, like, the biggest question mark is Szczesny, which is just funny to me. Like, you look at how great he was at Arsenal. Like, he was their first choice for a while, and a very solid first choice on a team that at times was left some bit to be desired, but he was very good at Arsenal for a very long time. So I feel like I'm discounting him a little bit by putting him on my like big question mark list. But when you've seen how he's performed in Champions League, and like you said, how he performed at parts of Euros, what was that, 2 summers ago now? Like it is kind of a question mark for me right now, and that may not be fair to him, but it is a pretty large question mark. And touching on Zielinski, he is very talented. He has a very good track record in Champions League this year. However, in league, he's done absolutely nothing. I think he has 1 goal in 11 games or something. So he's kind of been a super hot and cold. And when you only have 3 games in groups, like only 3 games guaranteed to you, hot and cold is not what you want. But it is true. He will give a little bit of support to Lewandowski in that attacking build up and in that attacking play. So maybe not fair to him to say Lewandowski is going to have to do it on his own. But I do think a lot of it will be on his shoulders, and I'm just not sure he can carry that burden all the way to a win or an advancement out of group.
Yeah, I'd probably put them third in my power rankings of this group. Let's move on to Saudi Arabia at this point. I'm going to give them to you.
Oh, how fitting. Yeah, coached by a guy. So let me start with Saudi Arabia. I don't think anybody listening to this podcast will know any more or any less about Saudi Arabia than us, because I don't think anybody knows anything about them unless you're watching the Saudi National League. In their last group of international friendlies, every single player on their side throughout the 26-man was playing in the Saudi League. So there's a very, very strong chance, unless you are watching Asian qualifiers, that you have never heard of any of these guys. We had never heard of, well, I had never really heard of any of these guys. So this will probably be our shortest of the 4 because of lack of knowledge and because of where they stand kind of in the picture of this World Cup. They're third to last in likelihood to win, according to, again, DraftKings Sportsbook. They're 68th in the world as far as transfer market value. Now, I think part of that is likely because they are a team that fully plays in the Saudi League, so they are under recognized and under known. So I do think that has a large part to do with it. But to not really sell them too short. They are the best team we've seen out of the Middle East fairly consistently over the last decade or two. They've won the Asian Cup 3 times in the last 40 years, I think. None of those in the last 15 or 20 even. But they have been a historically good side. As you said earlier in our kind of general preview, a lot of money is being pumped into the world of football for the country of Saudi Arabia. So I do think they are going to be a team on the rise, but at this point, the talent's just not there compared to the other 3 teams in this group.
Yeah, and I think even expounding on that, the lack of talent, when they play successfully, they play a possession-heavy game, and that's just not going to work against against teams outside of the Asian Confederation. You're in a group with Argentina, you're not going to dominate the ball. That's kind of one of these things. Speaking from experience, watching a counterattacking team that doesn't like possession because we don't know what to do with it in Spurs. It's if you try to beat a team like Argentina at their own game, you're going to lose 6-0. It's just not going to be pretty.
You're going to have to stick with Argentina with no talent. You're going to have to play like Leeds.
Yeah,
like what Leeds did against, was it Arsenal the other day?
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to throw everything, including the kitchen sink, at them and just run your rear end off for 90 minutes. And if that's something your team never does, it's going to be pretty hard to adjust to that on the fly against one of the most formidable attacks in the world right now. I wouldn't be surprised to see them lose by 4 or 5 goals to Argentina, because no matter what play style they choose to go with, it's just not going to work out for them, I don't think.
Yeah, they kind of what it seems like looking through their heat maps and their average positioning, they play like a kind of a 5 in the midfield. It ends up being more of a like 3 in the midfield, 2 up top. They don't park the bus, which in order to get any results, probably against any of these teams, they're going to have to be able to defend that back line, which means dropping probably 2 into a pivot CDM role in the midfield. And that's just not the way this team tends to play. They tend to like to get forward, which isn't going to work out super well against probably the teams in this group, because then you're leaving Lewandowski up top to manage against 2 Saudi Pro League center backs, and he's probably going to win that battle, and you're leaving Argentina's front line to work against that kind of center back pairing, or center back and fullback quad group of 4 against 3 Argentinian front lines. It's just, you need to drop 2 back, and they don't show the ability to do that, at least looking at kind of what they did in qualifying. Now it might change and they might have the ability to adapt to that, but I just don't see it. So I see Saudi Arabia with 0 points in this group.
Yeah, my last little bit on Saudi Arabia, as you were speaking on them.
Look at Aston Villa, 4-0 against Brentford.
Is it 4-0 now? Yeah, I did not see that coming today. I don't like that. We got them. Newcastle has them next too.
Villa.
I don't want them getting hot.
Yeah.
But as you were talking about that, I looked up the Argentina versus Saudi Arabia odds, like on the game.
Mm-hmm.
Argentina money line's like 600 or something stupid. But Argentina -2. So as long as they win by more than 1 goal, you're at least breaking even, is even money. So I'm essentially
locking that in.
I'm hammering that now. I'll hammer that then. I don't like making bets this far in advance, but I don't see that staying around.
We're really not that far in advance now, I guess. A month in betting terms is obviously considered far in advance.
I can do a lot with that unit.
Yeah.
Now I could also lose that unit between now and then. So maybe do want to lock it in. But yeah, I think that'll be kind of a fun way to look at Argentina from a betting stance in this group. Is not are they going to win, but how many are you comfortable saying they're going to win by? I think that's going to be the case in many of these matches. But I teased this earlier. One match that I'm not sure that's necessarily how it will kind of pan out is against Mexico. coached by Gerardo Martino, which is the biggest talking point for me on this team.
Yeah.
Former Messi coach at Barcelona. Messi essentially tapped him to be Argentina's head coach for, I want to say, 3 years. All right, so I don't know for a fact that Messi tapped him, but when you're coaching Barcelona in Messi's prime, and then your next coaching job is for Argentina, I'm guessing Messi had a pretty strong hand in that assignment. So very clearly has worked with Messi for a very long time. Would be a massive concern against past Argentina teams where it was all Messi all the time, had to be. But because that isn't the case now, I'm not necessarily sure how big of a role that will have on it. But I do think there is a good chance that is a maybe – I don't want to say something that will keep Argentina from beating them, but makes me the most confident in Mexico securing a draw here. Mexico also is statistically much better than Poland, currently sitting 13th in FIFA rankings, 15th in betting odds, 25th in the world in transfer market value. So they are a more talented side. As an American soccer fan who just got done watching the CONCACAF qualifying, I'm not super sold on Mexico. I think this is arguably the worst Mexico team we have seen in a while. They are a younger side than we've seen in many respects from Mexico in the past, so I think that is also of note. But for me, the CONCACAF qualification did raise some red flags. It did for the U.S. as well. I mean, we only had 25 points. Mexico finished with 28, tied with Canada, but losing on goal differential substantially. But I think that's kind of the biggest note for me is their goal differential in qualifying was only +9, and you had U.S. and Canada well above that. So I do think there are some question marks surrounding this Mexican side. They started qualifying really well, but kind of faded. And I think that can be attributed to some of those aging players that are in their side transitioning out, and some of those newer, younger players kind of starting to cut their teeth a little bit. But man, they struggled. They struggled to score, which is something we haven't seen from Mexican sides in the past. They only had 8 goals in 7 games on the road, and 9 goals in 7 games at home in qualifying. And that was led by Raul Jimenez. He was their top scorer, not very surprisingly. But I think part of the reason we're seeing them with less of an ability to score is because they don't really have that sexy, if you will, Mexican like flair to their game that we've used to seeing. It looks very sterile, and I think that's the biggest complaint from Mexican fans is it looks uninspired because it's lacking that kind of fun pizzazz, that fun flair, that excitement that we're so used to seeing from Mexican sides in the past and in past World Cups. So I think that's kind of the biggest question mark around Mexico. With that being said, because they're kind of playing a little bit more passive, sterile role, I think there is a chance that they could possibly match up nicely against Argentina. Especially with the help that they will likely get from their coach.
I'm back.
Oh, I was just rolling. I saw you left, and I'm like, I'm just going to try and keep this going so the audio
Forgot to pay the
internet
bill.
Good. But yeah, I pretty much just went on a 5-minute tangent on Mexico and the concerns around them, the lack of flair and excitement that they've had, the lack of goal scoring that they had in qualifying. And kind of this is not our normal Mexico team, but a Mexico side that I do still peg to get out of the group. I think they'll, what do we say? They're like 7 straight or something like that. Round of 16 exits. Maybe it's only 6, but they make it to the round of 16 almost every year, and they lose almost every year. And that's exactly kind of where I see them finishing this year. I do think that they're likely to advance, but I don't think they're likely to make the quarters. I'm not sure. Are you sure offhand who they match up with?
if they were to play in the
Yeah,
quarters?
I'm gonna pull that up really quick because they're gonna
No.
play a group
I know
winner, obviously.
They're yeah.
Group D winner. And now I can't even remember who Group D is.
I know their best finish is the quarterfinals in 1970 and 86. I think I read so. That's the best they've ever done, which is pretty surprising to me. For it being a side that we associate with soccer almost. I don't know if you mentioned, but they are one of the more experienced sides in this World Cup, especially at the goalkeeper position. And Ochoa is one of those who I hate him just because I'm an American fan and he likes to talk a lot. But he typically tends to step it up in the World Cup, and he's been very good the past couple. So it seems like he always goes up another gear, and they will be difficult to score on, but it will be difficult for them to score, which I'm sure you mentioned with the lack of flair and lack of creativity. So
yeah,
I don't know.
They're pretty. They're pretty obviously probably most experienced keeper, if not most top 3 most experienced keeper in the World Cup. But they're like a weird mix of experience.
Neuer's probably up there,
right? They're a weird a weird mix of extremely experienced and then some guys who don't necessarily have that high-end international experience. And I touched on it a little at the back half of qualifying. After they started so hot, we started to see them try to implement some of those younger guys, and that's when things started to not fall apart, but be less successful. So I am kind of curious, do they trust those aging guys to continue to play at the level we had seen them play the last 10 years? Or do they start leaning towards some of those younger players that we saw towards the end of qualifying? I think it's the World Cup. You're most likely going to go with the experience. But if they are forced to go with some of those younger players, I do think there are kind of questions around them. But there's no denying that, like, Edson Alvarez, Chucky Lozano, like there is some quality younger talent. Like Edson Alvarez is phenomenal. Absolutely great player at Ajax right now, but lacking some of that high-end international experience. So there is still some question marks on how they approach this. Obviously, there's no question if Edson Alvarez is going to play, he will play. But Mexico's a really interesting side for me. I'm not sold on them being super successful. I'm also not sold on them having a complete dud. I think we both started to subtly share our predictions, but I do have them advancing in second place. But let's kind of jump into that really quick before we wrap up. Where are you at with your projections and your expected standings?
I've got Argentina in first with 7, potentially 9. I have them I think we both have them with a draw versus Mexico, which could easily be a win. And then Mexico, I have having 5 points, with a win versus Saudi Arabia and then a draw versus Poland and Argentina. Poland, a win versus Saudi Arabia, a draw versus Mexico, coming in third with 4 points, and then no points for the Saudis.
Yeah, I'm exactly right there with you. I am pretty confident that Mexico will advance, whether it's with a draw against your Argentinian side. I keep thinking like you're a fan of them the way you hype them up so much. Like it is clearly the team you're most excited for. So in my head, I just like peg you as an Argentina fan right now. So against your Argentina side, I think they advance with a draw against them, or without. I do think there is a very strong chance they are able to beat Poland, in which case that Argentina match won't matter. But I have the exact same outcome as you. Argentina, 2 wins and a draw. Mexico, 1 win, 2 draws. Poland, 1 win, 1 draw. So Saudi Arabia coming out with nothing. I hope my Newcastle owners aren't listening. I still love you guys. Don't leave us because I don't think your national team's good. We need you.
Yeah, you do. Anything else from Group C, Dylan? Is that
No.
pretty much
No,
all we've got?
Yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. I think we're an hour from kickoff, so
Just enough time for me to cook some bacon, maybe some biscuits.
yeah, we made it through this without going at each other. But promise, when we're back on in an hour, it probably won't be so friendly.
Yeah, yeah. We both. I would say Tottenham really needs this win versus you guys to stay in that group of three up at the top, and to avoid getting into the Chelsea United mix, and then y'all need that to.
This could be a very big statement. Like,
yeah.
Oh, I don't think it would happen, but a win here, like, I think we're seriously in the top 4 contention, like conversation at least. Maybe not contention, but like you start asking questions like, "Damn, they just went in to Tottenham and took 3 points."
Yeah,
a draw.
If Tottenham loses today, everybody's in top 4 contention. You guys, United, Chelsea, everybody.
Right.
Liverpool,
draw,
though,
I think. Yeah, Liverpool's adios. A draw today, though, would be huge for us. I think every Newcastle fan would love to walk away with a draw, and I think that keeps us strongly in the Europa conversation. And a loss, you go, all right, we're still in Europa conversation, but got a little bit of work to do. So,
yeah.
Best of luck. I'll try and be friendly in an hour, but no promises.
Same. I will change clothes. I'll put on a Tottenham kit. So, we appreciate you guys listening. That's all for Group C. It's a pretty straightforward group in our minds, but y'all have a great day. We appreciate you listening. Peace out.